I'm Dr. Mulrooney, owner of My Business Doctor Inc., and welcome back to another series of In the Pink Seat. Now, April Dojcak is joining me. She's not here in Calgary with me, so she doesn't get to sit in the pink seat, unfortunately. But she is an expert in helping dentists find positions and helping owners find great dentists to fill positions. Welcome to the show, April.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you used to be a registered dental assistant for quite a long time, yes?
Yes, I was, yeah.
And you worked with a few larger corporations and really helped get them some big success, yes?
I did, yeah. I worked actually in some rural Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and BC practices. So some, tough to find associate positions.
Right. And now you've transitioned out of working directly in the clinics into a new venture called ProDent Search. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. ProDent Search is a niche dental recruiting company, and in a nutshell, we connect great dentists with great dental practices.
Perfect. And you've actually worked with a few of my clients already, so I know that you have a really good program out there, which is why I wanted to bring you on the show so that you can expose yourself. That sounded inappropriate, but we'll give you a little more exposure to more people out there as to what you do. I'm so not editing that out.
Giving me some exposure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Let me just take my foot out of my mouth here.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about what ProDent Search does and why it's important in dentistry today.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So as I'm sure you're well aware, the dental space is drastically changing. Dental practices are getting busier than they've ever been before, and expansion is not only required, but it's being really desired by a lot of practice owners. Mm-hmm. The competition out there is fierce, and traditional methods of building your team just aren't working anymore. So that's why we got into what we're doing, and we help build your team. As I mentioned, we're a niche dental recruiting company that focuses on dentists and dental specialists. So when it comes down to it, we're working with a practice or a group of practices that's building their team, and we know how important talent is, and we've been a great partner to many practices in filling the roles in the dental space.
Right. And you work just with dentists, or do you help with other team members as well?
So that actually is a really good question. When we say we work with dentists and dental specialists, we certainly mainly fit in there. But when we're working with a team and building their practice, we're more than happy to help them in whatever that looks like, taking on different roles. And if people are as excited to work with us as we are with them, we're absolutely open to working on all important roles in the practice.
Okay, wonderful. And when it comes to, I guess, geographically, where are you helping dentists find great dentists?
Well, we're working actually across Canada and the U.S., and we have a lot of great, partners in both Canada and the U.S. And as you know, a lot of specialists will go to the U.S. and take the residency programs there. So there's a lot of crossing back and forth. So that's why we've expanded our network and why we partner also across Canada and the U.S.
Great. And how long has ProDent Search been helping dentists?
So ProDent Search as an actual name of ProDent Search has just been since 2017. But myself, I've just been under, 16 years of being in this role and building my network. So as an actual company, 2017, but longer than that as a whole.
Okay, perfect. So you've been around the block, so we know you know what you're talking about. So traditionally, like when I was an associate, I was looking in classified ads and sometimes online. I graduated a long time ago, so online wasn't quite as popular back then as it is now. But that was the main way that I was able to find associateships. Sometimes it was word of mouth as well. Why is there now a need differently, which is your service, like a headhunter kind of service, which we see a lot in oil and gas and other big corporations, but we haven't seen a lot of that in Canada for dentists. So why has this become important that you've come onto the scene?
I think it's important both for dental practice owners and then the associates themselves. It's being able to be aware of what's going on in the market for an associate, whether you're moving into a new city or looking for that job. use our resources to be able to find you your next great fit. We sometimes are aware of opportunities prior to them even being posted, like you said, where you're typically looking on a job board or classified ad. A lot of our stuff is done through networking, so we can be a great resource and keep you, informed of what opportunities are coming up, whether you're looking for a practice where you currently are that's maybe offering different skills that you're interested in getting in, or maybe mentorship by somebody that's doing some different procedures that you're interested in, or moving to another city and as you're working still at your current location and don't have time, we can certainly take that off your plate and really, get you a large amount of exposure to other practices. And then in terms of the owner side, why it's so important is, talent matters more than ever in the dental space. I mean, I've seen the changes. I live in a smaller bedroom community to a bigger city, and I'm always floored by how many dental offices are here. So competition is quite fierce out there. So not just being technically savvy is important anymore, just that's just not enough. You have to, have great communication skills and, build that rapport with your patients. So we really want to make sure that we're providing dentists with great talent so that everybody can be successful.
That's great. So you help both sides really well, which is a great thing to have as a resource for everyone who is a dentist, really. So if you were to describe an ideal client to me, who would that be? Let's start with the owners, and then we'll go into the associates after that.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And we're constantly wanting to make sure that we're aware of what our ideal client is. But it is a great question. I guess the easiest way to answer that is being somebody that recognizes that talent does matter, and somebody that's just as excited to work with us as we are to work with them. And knows that it's important to bring in the right fit for your team. And that looks different for every practice. Different practices have different patient bases, have different culture, have a different vision. So that's where we really come in. We're not going to just send a bunch of resumes and hope that one of them sticks. We really dive deep into what that opportunity is to find you the right fit for your practice. So it's a long-term fit, it's an investment in your practice. And that goes the same on the associate side. We make sure that when we're talking to associates that we find out what they're looking for in their next opportunity, to make sure that it is a right fit and really take the time to learn that, as opposed to just constantly calling them with all opportunities, only reaching out to them with ones that align with what they're looking for.
So if you're interviewing an associate to be part of your program, are you asking them to provide you a wish list of the skills that they want to be able to do, or how do you go about trying to suss out what kind of associate they are so that you can fit them really well with the next practice that you put them into?
Yeah, we certainly find out what skills they're wanting to be able to either continue to do or be able to add and grow with. And we're certainly finding out what type of team culture they're looking for, where they're what they're kind of not getting at their current opportunity, or what they're looking for in their next opportunity. Like I said, if it's a move involved, we're certainly diving deep and finding that out.
Okay. Do you find that a lot of associates, when you approach them or they approach you, they don't really know what they're looking for, or are most of them pretty adamant about what they're seeking out?
I think it's a mix. Some don't, and we really do also help them figure that out. And then if they really don't know, it's best to just be open to all conversations at that point and learn about the opportunities. And that's sort of a way of learning about what maybe you're interested in and what you're not interested in.
That's great. So if an older dentist decides to use your service, are there any kind of guarantees on the match that you provide?
Absolutely. We stand behind all of our placements. Guarantees are one of those things that there's not one size that fits all. We have a couple different options for guarantees, but we certainly stand behind all of our placements. I mean, like a dental practice, our clients are our best, a great reputation is going to be where we get referrals from, and we want to be able to work with our clients again. So making sure that it is a right fit is extremely important to us, and we do stand behind our placements.
Right. That's great. Now, with the owners that you work with a lot, are you working a lot with big corporations, or are you working a lot with littler ones where they're looking just for a single associate? What is kind of the breadth of practices that you work with?
Yeah, I mean, we're working with all dental practices. We're working with ones that own, one or two practices, ones that own one, and maybe they have their succession plan in place, or we kind of help them with that as well. We're working with some of the larger corporations. I think we fit in every practice. I mean, some of the really large corporations certainly have internal talent, acquisition or not acquisition, pardon me. They certainly have their own talent team, but we definitely fit in, I think, everywhere in the dental space.
So there are other companies out there that do a similar job to what you are doing. What makes you the right choice for dentists today?
Right. I mean, and that was something that we looked into. There's, from what I understand, there's not a lot of companies doing exactly what we're doing in terms of the level of service that we're providing. And we have the largest network of the best dental associates, and we know what to do, and we get the job done right. I think being in the dental space for as long as I have been, I've gotten to know what bringing the wrong associate can cost a dental office, short term and long term. And then I also know what bringing the right one is an investment that you'll see a return on over and over again. And not just a return on an investment in terms of a production number, but also in team retention, in referrals. It just has such a great ripple effect of having the right associate on your team.
Great. Now, for associates, when is the right time for them to come to you and approach you for help in finding a position?
Yesterday, to be honest.
Get on it, people.
Even if you're not looking at the moment and you don't know what you're looking for, I mean, there's no such thing as a bad conversation when it has to do with your possible next career opportunity. And we're just excited to talk with everybody. So, I mean, like I said, yesterday is the best time, but certainly anytime.
Perfect. Yeah, a lot of times with associates, if things are kind of not right, but they're not that bad, they're afraid to seek out options because they feel guilty about that. But the thing is, you have to remember that you have to take care of yourself, and seeking out different conversations, especially conversations that aren't costing you anything, that'll give you a little bit of advice that maybe can help you get some clarity, are always a great thing to take advantage of.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand that if you're working at a certain practice and you don't want to rock the boat, but that's an advantage of working with us as well, instead of doing the search yourself. Is we work, we make sure that your information is never given out without your consent. We work in confidentiality, so I think that's a huge benefit of working with us.
Great. So if someone does decide to hire you, what kind of speed can they expect to get the placement, whether they're the associate or the owner, from start to finish? What is the general timeline they can look at?
I mean, that does depend on obviously where you're situated, if you're in a city center or maybe somewhere a little bit rural, but that's a definite benefit of working with us. I mean, we work fast. Not that we ever skimp on quality, but definitely we understand that, time is money, and that's a reason of maybe not finding the right associate is you're busy in your day to day, and you're busy in your clinic and you don't have time, but we certainly work. This is all we do all day. Okay. And so we certainly put speed on things.
Perfect. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
No, I think that's great.
Okay. So April, now we're going to get into the juicy pineapple questions as to how associates in our program can actually be a pineapple in their industry and really set themselves apart. What is your advice from what you have seen with your experience with ProDent Search?
Yeah, I would say, to keep it short and some advice to give would be always be open to a conversation about your next possible career move. And also be okay with, opportunities that maybe aren't in a big city that, you had your eye on. There's something to be said about being, big fish in a small pond.
Right. And can I get you to clarify what you mean by big fish in a small pond?
Absolutely. Maybe a suburb of a city or just a little bit of a drive outside of a city, you're going to get exposed to, a great patient base, build some great rapport with patients, and also be able to take on some different skills at a practice that's maybe just a bit outside of the city, where there's, places that you can refer for certain procedures, but maybe you can take them on in a practice.
Right. So a lot of times if they're in a big city and they're trying to go into one of these really high-end practices, they may not get exactly the kind of work that they're looking for, is what you've seen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then what pineapple juicy information do you have for owners out there from what you've seen with ProDent Search?
Well, create not only a patient-centric practice, but also employee-centric practice. So are you an employer of choice? If you were an associate and you walked in for an interview, take a look around. Would you be wowed when you came in? And, look at your doctor's face. I know that certainly we try and keep things tidy where patients see, but that kind of make sure you're taking care of associates too and giving them a space to be in the doctor's lounge. I like to refer to it as opposed to doctor's office.
Okay. And with those owners, if they're trying to say there's a really great associate out there that they're competing for, which I'm sure happens in this space, what can they do to try and get that competitive edge when it comes to hiring an associate who is very, very coveted?
Yeah, I think being transparent and open with them and opening that dialogue to what they're looking for and seeing and being honest, and not in a way that you're offering it just to get the associate, but are you committing to something that you actually can provide to them, whether it's sometimes there's a buy-in possibility if you do have that plan. Sometimes it's I can mentor you in these type of skills, but be open to that conversation. But also when you're committing to it, make sure that you can uphold that and stick to it.
So if an associate shows up for an interview, how should they be presenting themselves? Because I know that when I had associates come to interview with me, it was sometimes ridiculous how they showed up. I would have people show up in a hoodie and Bermuda shorts and flip-flops, hair like they just got out of bed, they didn't even brush it. And then if I ended up having to hire that associate because I needed someone, then they would show up with their scrubs looking like they had been balled up in the corner for weeks and just unrolled and put on, and it was kind of ridiculous how some people presented themselves. So what advice do you have for people to really, again, set themselves apart when it comes to that interview process?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only dress to impress for your interview, which is very important to come in.
And what do you mean by dress to impress? Can you clarify what the standard is for that?
I would say business professional.
Okay.
The dental space is a business, and also you set the tone at a dental practice. As the dentist, patients look to you. They want to look to somebody who looks presentable, who's well dressed. They look to you for advice. The team looks to you. Set the tone at the office as well, and take that leadership role. And I always find when you're dressed, business professional, you just feel better and things come across really well.
Yes, it's true. I know when I'm standing in high heels, I feel like I have more power than if I'm in flats or flip-flops. No flip-flops.
Flip-flop.
Like seriously embarrassed for these people that showed up looking like this, but it happens. And it wasn't just the one person who showed up like that. I had probably 3 people out of 6 show up extremely casual for their interviews, and it was shocking to me because I always wore a pinstripe suit, high heels, my hair was done, nice makeup, and made sure that I looked like a business person when I walked in, not showing up in scrubs,
That's great advice. Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of comes back to when you said you hired them because you were in a spot that you had to hire them. And that's sort of goes back to my, let's have a conversation today so that you're not in that situation. Let me know what a great associate looks like in your practice. And I'm happy to always, reach out and say, I spoke with this person. They're looking for an opportunity, whether you're hiring or not. It's nice to be able to be reached out to with those and then not be in that situation where you're hiring flip-flops.
That's what we're going to call them from now on. We're calling you flip-flops. I love that so much. Well, April, it has been an absolute pleasure having you in the pink seat today for our Ask the Expert series. Where can people get in touch with you now if they are seeing that this is a service that would be beneficial for them? What is the website they should go to?
So it's prodentsearch.com, or you can look me up on LinkedIn, April Dojcak.
Perfect. And I will make sure that information flashes across the screen as well so that people can find that. But thank you again for your time. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Great. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay. Bye.